dear friends, Dr. Charilu and Balu. My association with Manage is almost 3 decades. And then my association with Manage started. The first study that I did for Manage, along with Chandru and a few other colleagues, Dr. M.N. Reddy used to be here, the director at those days. And we did a study in Punjab, and I was chosen to study the interaction between the Department of Agriculture, Punjab, and the research, that is the state agricultural universities. What kind of, because that was seen those days as one of the best models, and what lessons could be drawn from those associations and partnerships, and then how that could be replicated. That was one of the studies. I am always very happy to be here. As an extension professional, spanned over the last 40 years. I am actually trying to compress this 40 years experience. I'll take you through some of the anecdotes, not so much about the excellence that I achieved, but how I enjoyed doing what I did and I'm still doing. Perhaps it was destined in my life that I would once become an extension professional. As a student of science at +2 level, like those days in the 80s, like every other boy dreamt of becoming a doctor, I also had taken physics, chemistry, mathematics and biology. And I did very well, in fact. I scored 80 in all the subjects, and I fell short of just 0.5 marks for getting into medicine. That was so disappointing. And then I was hell-bent on taking a repeat +2 examination, for which my father was very much opposed. And during the same time, my father brought me the advertisement. Those days, there's only one agricultural university, University of Agricultural Sciences, Bangalore, where the advertisement came, and my father came and asked me to fill this application form, which I reluctantly did. And I didn't want to get the interview. So what I did without telling my father, I did not paste the stamp on those small postcard-like things which were supposed to have been self-addressed postcard links that were supposed to have come to me with the address for inviting to the interviews. Well, those were those days. I think the post-90 kids won't probably understand this, you know, like they will get email, maybe a WhatsApp message or an SMS. But those were the days, you know, we used to look at the postman every day with a bated breath, waiting for what is going to come out today, like the Aladdin's lamp. Then, to my surprise, I got it. That too in waiting list. The course had already started from October 1st week 1982, but I got somewhere in the waiting list that you immediately go and appear. The interview was first in Bangalore. By October 1st week, I got the call that you have been selected under the general category. And there also, I lost out on getting veterinary sciences. I was condemned to wait list and then waitlisted and then get into agriculture, which I don't regret today. You know, it is, as I said, I was probably destined to become what I am today. So, I completed my BSc Agriculture, and the very next day after writing my final paper, I took a bus, overnight bus, and joined my first job. That was in 1986. That's why I say that it is a 40 years of career in extension. My first job was a field demonstrator in Gulbarga. That was October, it was the season of pigeon pea, Turda, and I was hired by a private company as a field demonstrator. I was given a big van with all audio visual aids, a big TV and a VCR, and probably they're all found only these days in the museums, not anymore in any place. And of course samples loaded in that big, those used to be called as, probably they have now obliterated, they're called standard van, standard company van. something like a matador. I enjoyed my job. The first, young person, take your vehicle, go around this thing. Written my junior fellowship in agricultural extension, junior fellowship exam for ICAR. So when I selected agricultural extension as my major, many of my friends and my seniors Sreenath, why did you take extension? Because from the Harvard campus of agricultural university, so far nobody has ever qualified for junior fellowship. Why are you taking this? I said that this is what I like. No, we thought that you will take something like a plant breeding or an agriculture microbiology. Why are you taking this? So I must recall an advice of a very good senior of mine. I made best of my academics as well as my extracurricular life as well. So the first few months of my job as a demonstrator in Gulbarga really taught me the hardship of field extension work. But grateful to the Almighty, my junior fellowship I cleared. I shifted from Harvard to Bangalore and completed my MSc in agricultural extension. That was a place. Those days it used to be called the Kashi for agricultural extension, because we had some of the tallest stalwarts who were heading this extension discipline. Their main aim was to train and mentor students. So that's how I was fortunate to be mentored by some of the finest extension professionals in Bangalore. And when I completed my MSc in extension, once again I tried my hand working with an NGO in the remote villages near Karwar in the Uttar Kannada district of Karnataka. I stayed put there, and then I started working, going into the remote villages of the fishermen, and I worked with an NGO. The NGO's ulterior motives did not really impress me. I worked for some time. I learned the way of respecting the cultures of those societies, and enjoyed the love and affection of the very poor people. But when I look back, I think I did not really like the way, the ulterior motive of the NGOs that used to really engage with these poor people. So I again quit that and wrote my PhD entrance exam. At that time there was a rule saying that if you have completed your master's degree from a particular university, and if you took admission in the same university for your PhD, you wouldn't be given senior fellowship. And I think that rule continues even now. So I was in a situation that I wanted very much an admission in the same university, because that recently my father had retired, and then we had all shifted to Bangalore, and then I wanted to be a day scholar and study my PhD there. Very recently, those days, discovered my penchant for writing, and I was one of the very few writers in Kannada, my native language, the technical writings, and I was a regular contributor to one of the famous Kannada dailies, which is called Prajavadi of the Deccan Herald Group. So almost every week my one op-ed used to appear. I wrote first begin with agriculture subjects, but very interesting, something like cereal crops, something like oilseed crops, and beautiful lectures, and then on watersheds and water management. We had some extraordinary teachers, and they used to make us think. So that used to encourage me to collect more data and then put them in a very readable language without getting technical, and then publish them in popular form. So each article I wrote used to fetch me 50 rupees. So that used to be my pocket money. And during the same time, so like this, from 1988 to 1991, until I took the job at ARS, my source of income was my writing articles in newspapers and casual announcements in All India Radio. And so that's how the life started. And when I was in my second year of my PhD, I wrote ARS exam with a lot of preparation, because it was something like a do or die situation for me. I also passed my ARS examination and then joined ARS. And my first posting was in Puttur. National Research Center for Cashew, Puttur. The first day when I joined, the director came in and asked me, when are you applying for your transfer? I asked, why? No young person comes and stays here. Look at all the people, they're all old, at least 10 years older to you. They must be either from the nearby places or so. I don't think you will stay here. I said, not like that, I would like to stay here. And he allotted me a quarters in a remote, there were two campuses, and in one of the campus was on the banks of a small river. It was full of cashew forest, I would call. It was in fact a forest. It was 12 kilometers away from the main campus, and we had to go through all these winding roads. And 12 kilometers those days on even a scooter would take about 30 minutes. And later when my child was there, I used to pay something like a quarter of my salary only for her auto to go get her to the town and go to the nursery. So that was the kind of remoteness where I started my career. Then what I learned in this place is something very, very interesting. This is where I learned the pleasure of doing field extension. This is in the south coast of Karnataka, southwest coast of Karnataka. Very ingenious, hardworking, and innovative also. In fact, I learned so much from the farmers. And I also learned that it's not just, when you are an extension professional, your relation with the farmer or the farm family cannot be just a transactional relationship. It has to be beyond that, only when they will believe you. So even now, I get the marriage invitations of some of the farmers, and some, the second generation people, when their children pass +2, they will call me, sir, this is the thing, which college is good, which stream is good, where I have to admit to. That's the kind of relation. I recently went to a farmer's family with my grandkids, to the same farmer's family. So that is the relationship that has blossomed over a period of 30 years. And I think we are friends for life. And that is the kind of love and affection I got from the farmers there. So a typical day would be something like this. Those days we used to have this Willis Jeep, and me and my senior colleague, one of my senior colleague was a very good, very celebrated horticulturist. Before I went there, he used to look after extension. In fact, I was the first extension scientist to be posted in that institute. That institute did not have a history of any extension professional. Before I tell this one incident I must tell you, which actually changed my perspective about how we need to treat a farmer coming to your institute. One day I was standing with my director outside the gate, and then our institute kind of was infamous for having those large gates and security guards and all that. The farmers felt intimidated to walk into the institute, and there were some journalists come farmers who used to be always very critical about the kind of setup that we have at this institute. One day I was standing there, a farmer just came in, because those days we used to sell what are called as grafted cashews. Our primary technology from that institute was grafted cashews. So cashew is a highly cross-pollinated crop, and if you plant it with seeds, so you will not get the true to type. So that institute pioneered what is called as softwood grafting, which will be true to type, and those grafts used to be sold at 12 rupees per plant. Those days, I mean, it's very expensive. About 60 plants were required for an acre. The farmers would make an application in advance, somewhere starting from January until May, and we will compile all of them. How? By there used to be a secretary typist. She will take all inlands, cards, envelopes, put them in an order, because it was first come first served basis. There will be some columns. She will type manually everything, and a huge pile of paper would come to me to make allotment. So from the farm I would get data about how many grafts are produced, and there is a indent that has come from various farmers. So the ratio used to be something like this. If a farmer needed about 100 plants, we were able to give only 40 to 50 only. So that was the kind of demand those days, because those were the initial days where grafting in cashew was becoming a little bit in vogue. So rather we were trying to elevate the image of a forest produce to a horticultural plant. Cashew was seen as a minor forest produce. So we wanted to give cashew an image of a horticulture plant. So we developed a package of practice, everything. And the first thing when I went there, my PhD guide came there to my quarters. He gave me an advice. He used to call me Dixit. See, in this institute, if anybody knows from seed to seed of cashew, it should be you, extension scientist. If you go to an entomologist, if you ask how much fertilizer you have to apply, he will say, I don't know, please ask agronomist. If you go to an agronomist and ask what is this pest and what should I spray, he will say that go to an entomologist. Please don't do this. If you want to be a successful extension scientist in this institute, after the director of the institute, if anyone should know A to Z of cashew, it should be you. That was a mantra to my ears. I followed it to the hilt. And then I used to, whenever a group of farmers or school children and anybody came, I used to explain to them. I had a very celebrated horticulture scientist. He was a very, very sincere man. Once I was accompanying him as very senior experts in horticulture had come, this senior horticulturist started explaining that please do this. Dr. So-and-so, I know this, so please tell me, don't tell me like how you explain to a college student or a school student. You tell me what are the challenges in increasing the percentage of success in softwood grafting. So, what kind of other methods we can use? Does tissue culture help, and what else for somatic multiplication? What else can we do? So that is when it got to my head that we need to pitch the message according to the level or the background of the visitors. So that took me, I practiced it all my life. Whoever comes to my desk will not go without a proper treatment. So sometime later, as I explained to you the graft allotment process, when the farmers gives an indent, he will get the grafts. He will write that I need 100. So we will send them out the graft allotment letter sometime during the last week of May, so that they can start picking up grafts as the monsoon starts, because in the west coast monsoon starts by first week of June. They can start planting. And when they come with the allotment letter, they will also hire something like a jeep or a tractor or some kind of a vehicle, come to the institute, and we used to distribute grafts only on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. A farmer came from about 40 kilometers distance by hiring the jeep, and by the time he came to reach our institute, he realized that he had forgotten his allotment card. So he went to the farm to ask his allotment, so and so and so. So he said, the farm people said that I cannot give you grafts unless you show me the allotment letter, because that was the process. So somebody advised me, go and then see Dixit there. And then somebody directed me, and then he came and stood there. I was talking to somebody who was standing there. Then I asked him to please sit. He was not willing to sit. He was still hesitant. Please sit. I asked him to sit. He was reluctant. Then I asked him, please sit down. So then he asked me, I asked him, what's the problem? He said, sir, you sent me the allotment letter, but I have forgotten. But they are asking me to come on next day, bring the letter. I have already hired my jeep. This jeep cost me 400 rupees. And then if I come another day, I have to give another 400 rupees. Sir, please help me some. I asked him, when did you apply for the grafts? Because in the pile, it was not those computer days where I just type his name and then search button and his name will pop up. So he said that no, I sent it in during this time. I asked his name, date and place and all that. I took a good 10-15 minutes to search it out from the big pile of those allotment files, and I fetched out and prepared a duplicate allotment letter and signed and then gave it. That person took 50 rupees note from his bag and then gave it to me. I was astonished. I said that, why are you doing this? No sir, we go to all departments. Nowhere they will ask us to sit even. They will heckle us. They don't even give the minimum courtesy of giving us some asking us to sit down even, and you have taken so much of time, you have done this. I said that I'm meant for this. Okay, please sit down. I just returned that one to him, and then I took him to canteen and gave him tea and then sent him, and then I noted down his address. He was so very happy. Then I noted down his address, and During my next field visit, I visited his farm because there were some criteria for establishing a demo farm. When we establish a demo farm, the cost of that plants will be borne by the institute. So we will reimburse that cost. So I visited his farm, and his farm was reasonably good, and I mean something like people, it should be approachable. People should be able to gather there, and and he has to have some genuine interest in cashew cultivation and all that. So I just went there, and then I converted his farm into a demo farm, and the money whatever for 60 crops he has been, that got him reimbursed in the next season, and he became so happy that even now he keeps in touch with me, and he says that, sir, never I have got respect in any of the government offices like I used to get when you were there. I mean, and of course that tradition continues even. So this is the kind of field extension. We are here to serve the farmers. If this doesn't get well into your head, probably you're not fit to be an extension professional. Then I came to Hyderabad Central Research Institute for Dryland Agriculture. What a contrast it was. I was working in a place which used to receive about 2,500 millimeters to 4,000 millimeters of rainfall, all plantation crops. Farmers were much well-to-do farmers, mostly plantation crops, and very, very intelligent farmers. If you tell one thing, they will do 10 things. So that is the kind of receptivity. But when I came here, this is a very, very contrasting situation. About 700, 800 millimeters of rainfall. That too fluctuates from 400 to 800, 900, and crop failures, droughts, and all that. So when I went to the interview, the first question the director who was selecting me asked me that, you are working there, how will you work here? I said that the principles of extension remain the same. They won't change in the ecology. Well, where you think it is more difficult? I said that this is more challenging and difficult in a difficult environment like the semi-arid tropics of, say, Rangareddy, Telangana, Adilabad, Anantapur, Raichur, and Madhya Pradesh and all that. I was selected, and I came and joined here, and I got an opportunity to work on an Australian funded project, which was a very interesting project on soil management. And that's when I got my interest into the natural resource management extension, participatory natural resource management. So it's very easy when we talk about changing a practice that is restricted to making certain decisions at one farm level, but it is very difficult to get a group of farmers to make the same decision so that a complete ecology or a complete landscape gets rejuvenated and benefits everyone more or less the same way. So it was a very, very challenging task. So I worked in this institute, and what I was exposed in my training at Australia is about action learning. What is this action learning? So very interesting things happened during those days. There used to be what is called as a rainfall simulator. The Australian scientists worked on certain biophysical aspects of how the intensity of rainfall, its relationship with soil erosion, and particle size, and the different soil types, how will it be affected due to the intensity and the duration of rainfall. So many equations they studied. After studying that, to study that, they actually made a contraption of a rainfall simulator. So after the studies were over, they did not just discard that rainfall simulator. They started using this rainfall simulator to educate farmers about soil erosion. See, what happens is when we go to a farmer and talk about soil erosion, he will initially not believe, because he will realize the soil has eroded only after the top sheet of soil has completely gone after one complete season. To make the farmer understand soil has already eroded or when the process is going on is more important. So we used that tool extensively. We used to take that tool in a tractor and a tanker of water, go from village to village, demonstrate. It is a very simple contraption which is a tripod. It's a long pipe and standing on 4 legs, and this pipe has perforations. That pipe can take a 180-degree turn like this so that it actually simulates rainfall. And the intensity of rainfall can be controlled by the force with which you pump the water in that lateral pipe. So that was the kind of experiments, rather field experiments, we used to take and go to the farmers and tell them how much erosion takes place. So this was a very, very powerful tool. So and this action learning as a principle, small tools to tell farmers about how these things work. So like this, this action learning which I took from the Australian training, I used it in several other projects later in National Agricultural Innovation Project, which actually was funded by the World Bank, and it was implemented in about 8 districts of the United Andhra Pradesh those days. And even our project won the Best National Agricultural Innovation Project in the livelihoods category. We could make very interesting contributions. One episode I would like to tell about farm ponds. How difficult it was to talk about farm ponds. I think those of you who have studied agriculture would know that this is one of those courses in your dryland courses you will know about the farm ponds. But they never became a mainstream thing until very recently. It took almost 20 to 30 years for the farmers to really appreciate the value of farm ponds. And the way farm ponds are promoted was also faulty because of the improper extension principles adopted in popularizing these things. This I could identify early in my career. Like when we went to Adilabad, we understood that here there is a potential for digging up larger farm ponds which can actually work as the protective irrigation for the farm ponds, I mean for the farmers when the rain stops, at least for growing a 20, 30, 40 days crop, something like a vegetable crop or maybe 1 or 2 irrigations for a chickpea like crop. So the whole concept of what we call as the protective irrigation or life-saving irrigation was defeated if you had a smaller size farm pond. By the time you want to actually use this water, the water is already gone. It is something like, the farm pond is a technology just to demonstrate but never mainstreamed. Again, very interesting joke which used to go around those days. To some extent it is also true that in the late 80s and mid 90s, until mid 90s, there used to be very high rates of suicides in Vidarbha region of Madhya Pradesh. There are 4 agricultural universities in Maharashtra. So the scientists have come up with a wonderful technology. It's called farm pond technology. If we dig farm ponds in Vidarbha region, everything will be fine and there will be no drought. So let us prepare a plan. So they prepared a plan and they submitted it to the government. And when it went to the finance department, the person sitting there, the finance department, sometimes we have to really appreciate. At times we are at loggerheads with the finance because the finance will not sanction ours, this and all that. But there is an important lesson here to learn is that what is the technology? When we talk about technology, it has to be feasible, it has to be economical, it has to fit into the social and cultural fabric of the community. So one of the important things the finance person did was he calculated the total number of farm ponds into the total area. To his surprise, it exceeded not just the Vidarbha's land area, it exceeded Maharashtra's land. What I'm trying to say is that when we prepare plans, programs, policies, if we need to be taken seriously, we need to be really, really good in our making the proposal. We cannot simply, just because there is a technology, I cannot throw something because it has to pass through all kinds of scrutinies at various levels. So the point that I am trying to say here is that the farm pond technology, and a similar thing also came in. Like I heard one of the states made an agreement with a donor agency to dig about 10 lakh farm ponds to harvest the rainwater. I said that this is such a ridiculous thing for any government to do this, is because it's not just the farm pond that will save you water. There are a range of technologies which need to be used based on the kind of rainfall you are dealing with, the kind of topography you are dealing with, the kind of soils you are dealing with, and the kind of rainfall pattern that we have been receiving in the last 20-30 years. So you cannot dig a 20 meter by 20 meter into 3 meter depth farm pond in Anantapur, which receives only 400 millimeters of rainfall, and you can't dig a 10 meter by 10 meter into 2 meter farm pond in Adilabad, which receives 1100 millimeters of rainfall. In fact, this is what exactly happened even in our Manrega. Manrega, it was given to some famous IT firm. They prepared some Excel sheet that, for reimbursement. If you have to get the money reimbursed, it has to fit into a 10 meter by 10 meter into 2 meter farm pond only. If you dug something more than that, it will not accept. The software will not accept. So, I mean, these are some of the things that are, an impediment when we want to convert science into policy. So, there is a need for the scientists to work very closely with the finance people, the IT people, the social sciences people, and everyone to see that the technology finally takes in the form of a shape. That is what is about scaling up. It actually happened in our NAIP. So, first day when we went and then talked about the farm pond, the entire village laughed at us, saying that, we already have small farms, you want us to dig about 17 meter by 17 meter by 3 meter farm pond. And finally we convinced one farmer, a tribal farmer, he convinced and he started work, and the farmer next day came and started telling, I had a big fight with my wife. She said that, why have you agreed? We already have a small farm, and in that a quarter of the land will go, and you have agreed for this one. No, you just wait. So we dug the farm pond, and everybody came and laughed and then ridiculed this farmer. And the farmer, he had a lot of debts on him also. He was doing the disappearing act now and then for, because of the recovery agents problem. So once the farm pond filled, there was such a spectacle, including the district collector of Adilabad came and saw that. And this farmer cultivated tomatoes in the second season. One more lesson that I learned is that if you do something in goodwill, this famous saying about the Alchemist, a famous novel, in that one he says, if your intentions are good, in the entire cosmos will conspire to make it as a success. So something like that happened. So for that farmer, he got about 48 rupees of the farm gate for the tomatoes that he cultivated, and he cleared his debts in one season. So after this, there was a big queue in our project office that I want farm ponds, I want farm ponds, and I want farm ponds. There are about 30-40 applications, but we didn't have so much money to dig the farm ponds. What we did, we approached the district collector, can you do it in Manrega? And that is when we came to know that the Manrega has a limit of 10 meter by 10 meter by 2 meters. Then what we did, we asked Manrega to do that, and then we used our project money to deepen and widen it. So that's how, farm ponds started getting mainstreamed in those areas. So this is one example of, one NRM technology. There are many such things. Then I'm also very, very fortunate during my career in CRIDA that I got mentorship from some of the finest leaders. I owe my whatever success, if at all, it can be called as, and I do call, personally it has given me a lot of success, although I may not have won many awards and all that, but I feel whatever I did as an extension professional, I met with a great success because I derived the satisfaction of serving the farmers, planting a smile on their face, and that really gave me such a gratification. We were working in this NAIP project in Anantapur, and those days in Anantapur there was an unwritten belief among the farmers that this area is not very good for dairy because we don't have so much of supply of fodder. So we tried very many methods to augment the fodder supply, by which we wanted to encourage the farmers to do dairying also to supplement their income. In one such farmer's family, we had encouraged him to go for dairying. We had also tried to get the access to an SHG group, a temple land, which also had some basic irrigation facility to grow fodder and supply it at cost. So this has resulted in some bit of dairying activity. Even a group of 8 people of ours went to, 8 people went to the farmer's house just to look at that. The farmer became very, very happy and he said that my cow has now given birth to a calf. In fact, what we were trying to do at those days was helping the farmers, particularly the landless laborers, to buy cows and artificially inseminate them, and then either if they wanted to sell, they could sell that one after 2 or 3 years of rearing it, calf rearing, and then impregnating with artificial insemination, and then selling it at a higher price. Or if they wanted to keep them, they could have kept it also. So this farmer chose to keep it. Then we went there. He was about to take the entire milk of something like 2.5 liters of milk to the dairy, to give it to the society. But when we went there, he decided to forgo that entire thing, and he boiled that milk and gave it to all of us. For that farmer, 2.5 liters of milk, which would have fetched him 60 rupees those days, we asked him, why are you giving like this? It is your money. So he said that, sir, because of your encouragement, we are able to enjoy this. So I want to give you milk. These are some pleasures of doing field by extension worker. We just did not do any godly act. We just did what was humanly possible. And to attribute something like that and to see that kind of a smile is something very, very gratifying. So this NAIP project, when it was allotted to me, at that time my director, he told me one thing. Dixit, if you do this project well, it will take you to places. And that was the time, between 2007 and 12, he said that you complete this project and it will take you to places. So during that period, there were several, although I was eligible to apply for many principal scientist or head of the division post, I made it this thing that I took it like a gospel, and I followed it, saying that for the next 5 years, until I complete this project, I will not apply for any positions. So I did not apply for any positions, and I completely dedicated my time to this 5-year NAIP project, and it did indeed take me to places. And soon after that, we got this NICRA project, wherein I got an opportunity to work with about 100 KVKs across the country. This was a fantastic learning experience, although my experience until then was confined only to the southern part of the country. A very interesting project where we were trying to look at the vulnerabilities due to the lack of water, more water, frost, cold, more heat. I mean, whatever that is that can be exacerbated due to the climate change. So one interesting thing that we saw was that we had a KVK in Kerala, which due to climate change was battling excess water problem. In fact, this Alappuzha is below sea level. So whenever there is excess rainfall, this entire almost major part of the district get inundated. So paddy is the major crop there, and what kind of climate resilient methods we need to follow there. It was a very challenging project and so much learning, and particularly some of the very, very ingenious farmers, how they would cope with this climate change kind of problems, So they were all, and for these, for the Alappuzha farmers, for nearly about 3 months, they would not be able to even get out of their homes, leave around the town, because getting vegetables was very difficult. So we trained the farmers to grow their own vegetables in their places. So there is a very interesting kind of interaction going on all these days. So the NICRA KVKs was a great experience, and that is when I developed a lot of network with all those days it used to be still called as ZPD, Zonal Project Directors. Later it was changed as Atari's Agriculture Technology Application Research Institutes. So then with this I got selected in 2014 as the director of Atari Bangalore, and during this time I came to know the importance of to become a science leader. It's not just enough to know science. Until some point of time it is fine, and that's your bread and butter. You have to be no doubt best in science. But beyond that also, what are those things that are required for you? So my mind got open to this kind of things, like transacting with leaders and then the politicians, then the local, dealing with the vice chancellors, because when we are with KVKs, so we need to talk to the vice chancellors, we need to talk to the some NGO head who is also a politician. So how do we negotiate all these things at the same time, keeping an eye on what you need to deliver. These are some of the important things. And then in 2018, I saw an advertisement from ICRISAT. Since I had earlier had 2 stints in ICRISAT, I did know how things work there, and then the kind of reach and the kind of approaches I had seen there. Of course, there are some which are good there are some which are good in government. Because these organizations have evolved over time and they have their own good practices. So then I made an application to lead a section called as ICRISAT Development Center. This is again more or less what we call as here in typical these things. There is a director of extension or something we call, or director RAFTAAR we call. But here in the international this thing, it was only ICRISAT among all the CG centers that had what is called as an outreach wing. So it is very, very interesting. It took my memory back to 1985 when I visited ICRISAT as a student. When I visited ICRISAT as a student, as a third year final trimester student, I had already made up my mind to major in extension. So as a student, when I was being taken around in ICRISAT, I asked the person, the visitor services officer, that what about extension here? Who is doing this? What about your technology transfer? How is the mechanism? Then the person who was actually in charge, who was explaining, he immediately said, no, we don't need extension. We are a research institute. I was puzzled. How can a research institute in agricultural science be doing something without getting feedback from farmers? And why is there no need for extension? So probably those were the days there was so much of overemphasis rather on crop breeding and crop management and pest disease and also germplasm collection and all that. At that time there was still not so much of realization even from the donor side that how important it is to get research impact. Today no donor would like to fund anything that is in the upstream research. They want to see impact on ground. At that time, I was a young person without much experience. This question actually, this response actually baffled me, that how can a research institute work without a technology scaling up or technology outreach wing or an extension wing? So that question, my thought was vindicated when I joined here in 2018. That this kind of institutes do need, and in the changed scenario, that there is a technology scaling up required, impacts need to be created, only then you will get funding. So an ICRISAT-like institute can works only on donor funding. They don't get government grants. So my experience here as heading the technology scaling wing, which is called as IDC, I was not only to earn my own salary, which I was always assured of in government, being in the government servant all through. Here I was supposed to earn my salary as well as the salary of about 100 member strong team that work with me in various parts of the country, in different funded projects. So it was a very interesting experience meeting the donors. We prepared a proposal and that we had to defend that proposal. It was by a pharma company. They wanted to fund a project through their CSR funding. I went and I presented this, and probably even my PhD final viva was not that tough. So they grilled me so much that I really appreciated, because not only their entire finance wing was there, their technical wing was there, a few engineers were there. People did not know anything about agriculture, but yet they had so many questions which, as an agricultural scientist, we did not perceive them. So it was a very interesting experience defending projects, and then finally getting that project is something is very, very thrilling. So that kind of an enjoyment is what I used to derive. And I did this, I led this team for about 5 years, and there were some interesting experiments we did in Bundelkhand particularly. Again, Bundelkhand is another hotspot like Vidarbha, what we told, where we transformed about 35,000 hectares of land by reviving what are called as traditional water harvesting structures called Havelis. So this was highlighted when the Prime Minister of India visited ICRISAT during its 50th year celebration. I had the fortune of explaining to him in person this. I was given just 1 minute, and then we had to take one video about 1 minute and another 1 minute for question and answer. So I had the pleasure of explaining to him after he had a very careful look at the video, and he even made a point about this project, which was a success, in his speech later. And in fact, here it's a typical work of scaling. In the year 2011 and 12, when I was not there in ICRISAT, a group of scientists, which I later led, had done a work on about just about 1,200 hectares of land in Bundelkhand to transform a small village which was dependent on tankers during summer season for their even drinking water needs. So they had revived water called as Havelis in that village. Havelis are basically water harvesting structures which develop as cultivated land as well as rainwater harvesting structures. During rainy season, they hold water, and after the rainy season, during Dasra, they let out all the water, and this water is used for moistening, wheat sowing, chickpea sowing, and during Rabi season, this land where the water was standing during the rainy season will be converted as an agriculture field. So this is an age-old technique of nearly 400 years old, which was developed during the dynasty of Chandelas in Bundelkhand region. So these structures were actually completely in dilapidated conditions. So we revived nearly 80 such Havelis across 7 districts of Bundelkhand in Uttar Pradesh. And this got the attention, and from 1,500 hectares to 1,200 hectares to nearly 35,000 hectares. And after the success of this one, the first one was funded by a CSR entity. The second one, the 35,000 hectare, which I just spoke, which we implemented in all the 7 districts of Bundelkhand, was funded by government of UP. After seeing the success of government of UP, offered another project, another challenge. In fact, they said that you have done this in 5,000 hectares in all distributed areas over the 7 districts, but can you do it in one piece of 28,000 hectares, which consists of nearly 40 villages, these 40 villages are facing acute shortage of water. And this is being done now, and this is the project at the moment ongoing. I'll quote one data for showing the success of this project, is that earlier, before we went into this area, there used to be what are called as wells, open wells. These open wells, after you completely exhaust the water by irrigating, pumping it out, it will take about 50 to 70 hours for getting that water again. The water will have to come through the subsurface. So the groundwater recharge, it will take about 50 to well recovery period. This is called well recovery period. Well recovery period used to be something like 50 to 70 hours. After we stepped in, well recovery period, after all our landscape treatment work, it was brought down to 12 hours, 10 to 12 hours. So that means you pump out all the water until tonight, morning again you will have water. And after serving there about 5 years in that position as the head of the ICRISAT Development Center where this work was done, and then we worked in Odisha also, we worked in Karnataka, and another interesting work also, some of the elements in the farmers also will take some stand and then will try to exploit you. One such example, let me tell you. In one of the places where we were implementing a CSR project in the direct influence zone of a mining company, we had introduced high yielding onions as an additional crop using some minor litigation. So we had conducted training programs and all that, but by the time the farmers took up sowing, rather transplanting, they were supposed to use the onion seeds to prepare the nursery and transplant these into the main field. But by the time this could happen, the COVID started and we had travel restrictions and we could not travel. So during COVID, some farmers followed the method that we had told, some farmers simply broadcast seeds, and something like that happened, and some farmers over-irrigated their farms. As a result, the entire onions there, they got completely, they putrefied and then they decayed, and some farmers raised a heckle, said that ICRISAT has supplied poor quality seeds to us. And a few mischief mongers who tied up with the local reporters, and then this was made as a headline in one of the local newspapers. This caught the attention of the local horticulture department and the head of the horticulture research station and all that. And every time this farmer would call and ask for compensation, who was in charge of this project. Unfortunately, he did not know the local language. So what happened? He was petrified and he called me, said this is happening, and this entire group of farmers is demanding that we go to the village now and then give them the compensation. I said that how can we go? There is a travel embargo. None of us can travel. Even governments don't allow any traveling. And we were all working from home. That was the first time experience for an institute like ICRISAT to work from home. Then I said I knew that it is a mischief, and our field assistant, I sent that field assistant to collect the data from about 30 farmers, 30 farmers to whom the seeds were given, the same seeds were given. So this had actually happened in 4 to 5 farmers. Then the data, when it came to me, I was astonished to see that the people who have actually who are complaining of the poor seeds had not actually followed the process that we had guided them through the training program. They simply broadcast it, they over-irrigated it, they did not follow the nursery practice. So all this data when I got, I told him that let us sit for a meeting, virtual meeting, I will join. In the virtual meeting, I made this farmer also to come, and all other farmers came. The complaining farmers also came. I presented the data. And I told him that, and I also asked him, is this data has come from this farm, this farm, this farm. You agree with this? Yes sir, yes, we got it. So I'm trying to see that there are good farmers, there are trouble-making farmers also. Of late, the number of trouble-making farmers is increasing, which is actually a threat to doing a good extension, field extension. So then what happened? I told him, see, this is not a government project. This is a CSR project. A particular company has given us the money to implement it in this village. And we are not mandated to have this project in your village only. If you have problems, we will shift this entire project to the next village. As long as you are the farmer who is now making this kind of a complaint, having committed wrongs himself, is doing it, we are not going to step into your village. You deal how you want to deal with it. The entire group of farmers had a stiff argument with him right in the virtual meeting. He was chastised, and then the farmers finally said that just because of that one farmer, please don't deprive us from the benefits of this project, and from now onwards we will not include him in any of our projects. I mean, in the sense that we will see that he is not a beneficiary farmer in this project. So what I am trying to tell here is that when you are right, when you know that you are right, you should not buckle down to any pressure that might come. It will be very difficult. During that time, I had a harrowing time. Every day there used to be calls like this. And there is another incident that happened far away from here, somewhere in the north. One of our field workers was caught by irate farmers and kept in a room. They locked him up. Just for a simple reason that some of the farmers had received nursery plants that happened to be some other variety than they actually had asked for. So then, it's a matter of law and order, and he's our employee, and as a supervisor, I am responsible for his safety. So we finally talked to the farmers, and then they agreed. So like this, there are so many challenges that keep coming. The last thing that in 2022, I completed 5 years in this project, and I also availed all my deputation which I was eligible for as a government of India, which is, I mean, ICR servant. We can avail about 7 years in our service time, the deputation. So I had already completed. I had a choice, either I get back to my ICR job and then report there as a principal scientist and spend my remaining 2.5 years and then retire from there, or if I was given another contract, I would continue here. So the management at that time decided that because of my vast experience both in the CG and in ICR and with the government, I was moved to the DG's office, DG of ICRISAT's office as a strategic advisor. And now I continue to do the strategic advisor, be in strategic advisor's position, where my job is not non-executive. It means that I am not going and implementing any projects. I'm not going and defending any projects. I just offer a certain kind of support to the management in terms of dealing with strengthening relationships with our partners and donors and governments and all that. So this is something that I never imagined that I would ever land up in a job like as an advisor. Now I'm realizing this has been a wonderful journey where it has not only contributed to my professional journey as well as my personal journey as a satisfied professional. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. Thank you very much.